Okay, welcome to AmeriCorps Week, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is our alumni panel for Throwback Thursday. If you're just now joining us, go ahead and put your name in the chat if you're an AmeriCorps member. If you want, some people are putting their sites in there, and then also where you're at in North Carolina. But we're going to go ahead and jump in and ask the alumni panel to introduce themselves. So alumni panel, if you can give your name, what program you had been a part of, and a brief explanation, and where you're at now. What's your job title, and then we'll get started. And for those of you joining us, our AmeriCorps members and participants, we will be doing breakout rooms from here, but we wanted to make sure to do the introductions ahead of time so that you had a chance to hear from everyone. Any alumni want to just jump right in and introduce themselves?
Go. My name is Allie Schreiner. I was involved with Project Mars. So hello, Katie. I chose Project Mars because it was school-based, and that was kind of the plan that I was on, direction that I wanted to be on right now in grad school to become a school psychologist. So it was a perfect gap year opportunity.
Awesome, thank you, Allie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Shepard. I served with AmeriCorps Access program in Greensboro at Church World Service Greensboro, or CWS. It was a part-time position. I was teaching cultural orientation to newly arrived refugees, so helping them get acquainted with the new community, and did a lot of field trips and fun stuff. Fast forward all of these years later, and I'm still with CWS. I'm the office director. Hey, Susanna.
Awesome,
Hello.
thank you, Megan.
Hey, Megan, you're the best. So happy you're here.
Hi, so I'm Jaleisha Richmond. I served a lot of AmeriCorps terms. I was a part-time AmeriCorps member doing 2 state and national programs. I did 2 terms of AmeriCorps NCCC. And then I ended my AmeriCorps career with I started a term as a VISTA with the North Carolina Rural Center. Fast forward, that position I actually turned into my current position. I am the director of lending for Thread Capital. So we offer small business loans, and I'm from Durham, and I'm based now in Durham. So thank you guys all for being here.
Awesome, thanks for joining us, Jaleisha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yelena Milislav, and I served in the Access program as well here in Greensboro at Church World Service. I was part-time, and I was the employment education instructor. And after my year was done, I joined CWS as their employment specialist, and recently moved up to the employment services coordinator position.
Awesome, thank you, welcome.
Hey, my name's Carl. I was a member of Project Mars in Asheville, North Carolina. I served 2 years at different schools, being a mentor to students, and that was what I did. Now I am a pharmacy technician, just hanging out.
Awesome, thank you, Carl.
Hi, my name is Amy Cruz. I served 2 part-time terms with AmeriCorps Partnership to End Homelessness in Greensboro. My first term, I worked at an emergency family shelter. My second year, I doubled a term at Youth Crisis Shelter as my first year of my master's degree, internship placement. And so I'm finishing up my master's now and working in school social work, and plan to do that as a career.
Awesome, thank you for joining us, Amy.
All right, I think that's me. Sorry, my internet connection's a little unstable, so I'm hoping that I don't get bumped off or freeze up while I talk. But I'm Kristen Lee, and I served with AmeriCorps Project Conserve back in the 2013 to 2014 program year, where I served as a volunteer program associate. And in that position, I recruited and managed volunteers for a local land trust that was called Carolina Mountain Land Conservancy. And since then, I was lucky to come into my new role as the Project Conserve Program Coordinator. So I'm still working with the AmeriCorps program now 6.5 years later.
That's awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate it. We're going to jump into breakout groups now. So it's more a smaller group. I can't say intimate. There's almost 40 people, so you're still going to have a good amount of people in the groups. But are we ready for our breakout groups, Katie?
I have them set up, but for people that trickled in, I don't have a room for you yet. So maybe just wait a couple seconds before you maybe start, and I'll try to get those people, those little stragglers, in a breakout room. But I am ready.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. We did talk and say around 7:20, we'll probably come back as a big group and talk all together, maybe ask a couple final questions we might have to the alumni and close us out.
All right, here we go.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, so feel free to unmute and ask questions. I'll go ahead and kind of start us off with a little icebreaker question, and I want the participants to also jump in and respond as well, so we can get a feel for, break the ice and get everyone chatting. So our question, it's a difficult one. I don't even know if I have an answer to this yet. If you were a sandwich, what sandwich would you be and why? Anybody very passionate and want to share their sandwich? We're thinking very in depth.
I can start.
Awesome.
I've been thinking a lot about it. Very hard one for me to answer. And let me know if I'm freezing up or if my voice freezes or anything. But so I try to think about this as if a sandwich were named after me, what sandwich would I want named after me? Because I don't know that I would describe myself as a sandwich, but I can definitely think of sandwiches I love and would love to be named after. So the one that I thought of was, I've a couple of times in school and also just for vacations, mainly to Europe, because I have family there. And one thing that I always get when I'm in Europe are these like baguette sandwiches that is just like at every cafe, you can get this sandwich that's on a baguette and it has prosciutto and brie and arugula and like some kind of like sweet compote like spread on it. So I would say I would be that sandwich because that is delicious and it was the first time I ever had prosciutto and like blew me away. And it always makes me think about traveling, and that's one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome, love it. Thanks for sharing, Kristen. Cool name, by the way. Had to throw that in there. I saw you laugh, Sarah. As long as I get a chuckle, that's all I need, just one. Who's next?
So I also gave this a great deal of thought, and I chose the Reuben because it's a little bit unique of the sandwiches, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but those who like it really like it. So That's why I chose the Reuben.
Awesome.
I got one. I'd probably be like a real cheap Subway sandwich, like with the yoga mat chicken breast and cheese and like all the veggies. So you can't like close the sandwich and it falls apart and it's exactly what you were expecting, but you're disappointed every time.
Oh no. That's how you want to be remembered?
That's my favorite sandwich though. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's just like, it's like mediocre, but you know what you're gonna get every time. It's like, and there, like something could have been better. Like the next time you're like, well, if they just would have done this different, it could be better. And then they never do that. And it's always just like, maybe next time. And that's why, that's your life.
Your expectations are low, you're never disappointed. Sounds like you're always satisfied with that sandwich.
Sure, yeah,
Could
it's a good sandwich.
always be better though.
Yeah, yep.
I don't know if this is a cop out, but I just kind of feel like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like it's just classic. You can never go wrong with it. Unless you have like a peanut allergy or something. But otherwise, it's always good.
Classic, I like it.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I keep like talking over people.
You're fine.
I'm gonna go with a hamburger. And I know that's like controversial. Is it a sandwich? It's in between two pieces of bread, so I'm calling it a sandwich. Because honestly, I couldn't think of any other sandwiches. But because it's different to every person that has it, and every person, you know, kind of likes their hamburger a little bit different. So I don't know. That's all I got.
I'm a hot dog then. If you're saying a hamburger is a sandwich, I'll just say hot dog then.
No, that was gonna be mine. Because you don't
can't
want
do
it a
that.
lot, but when you do, nothing else will get the job done.
That's
Nope.
awesome. So what do you put on your hot dog, Susanna? Because in Chicago, we're very
Oh yeah, that's like a
particular.
big thing, right? Well, it would honestly depend who I'm eating it around, because like if it's just me shame eating it, I'm gonna have chili on it, you know, like let's be honest. But if I'm around other functioning humans, I would probably just get something like super low key, like I don't know, mustard and ketchup, you know, like I would like downplay it a lot, but in my heart of hearts, it would have chili on it. That's my truth.
I feel you with the chili.
Thank you. Thank you. So how do you have it in Chicago?
Everything but ketchup. If you say you're gonna have ketchup on it,
Onions too.
but
That's a
yep,
that's a tall
relish,
order.
all
Wow.
of it. Pickle spear.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, just a pickle, but it's like a spear. It's like
Danger. I like that. That's cool. Well, that's a lot
this is
fancier than mine.
fabulous.
But I stand by my choices and I respect yours.
I'm really enjoying this. You guys know our breakout group is the one that's being recorded. I hope you know. All the laughs that just happened. This is fabulous. All right. Who's next?
I can go next. Daisy.
Daisy. Hi, Daisy.
Okay, so I would say a gluten-free turkey ham sandwich with a lot of cheese and mayo and jalapenos and lettuce. Just because of my gluten allergy, but yeah.
Awesome. Is that your favorite sandwich? Is that why you like the
Yeah, but it's all I can basically eat. I mean, the gluten sandwich isn't the best, but I mean, yeah.
Gotcha. Also, a side note on that peanut butter and jelly, if you have a peanut allergy, go get you some sun butter. It's really good. It's sunflower butter. It's the same consistency, a little different taste, but you get used to it. I enjoy it. Carl's like, no. Oh, hey. What you got, Sarah?
It's like Reese's, but with sunflower butter.
Okay.
And it like doesn't have milk in it either. So
Hmm.
it's like all the allergy friendly. It's so good.
Yeah.
I guess
Dairy
since I'm
free.
talking, I'll go next. I would go, it's kind of like a peanut butter and jelly, which I love because I love peanut butter despite the sun butter Reese's things. But instead of putting jelly on it, I like to put dried fruit, but like specific kinds of dried fruit, like dried cherries that are still like kind of juicy, not like completely dry. And I like that because it doesn't have as much like added sugar as the jelly, but you can take it like on adventures with you and it's good. It's not gonna like fall apart and stuff as long as you put peanut butter on both sides. So yeah, that's my sandwich.
Awesome.
Okay, I can go. I'm surprised no one said a grilled cheese yet, but I would definitely be grilled cheese. They're my favorite kind of sandwich, especially if you put like jalapenos or like tomatoes. Like I like to add other things to it, and they're really good. And I eat those like 3 times a week probably. So.
See, I've never been a huge grilled cheese fan because, you know, I like cheese, but like all the cheese, I'm like, but I did have an apple bacon, like cheddar sandwich, and it's amazing. And then the other day I made that, but without the cheese, and I added avocado, and it was so good. So that's the sandwich I will be. And I don't know why, just because it's so good, because it's got a lot of good stuff. It's like breakfast and a sandwich. Like it's like avocado toast and bacon, a side of bacon, but like put it on a sandwich and have it for lunch.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've made like apple brie grilled cheeses before.
Ooh,
those are really good too.
That sounds good.
I guess following in the fashion of the next Kristen in the room. So I was a bit shocked when I heard the first Kristen say that like it was a sandwich of baguette with like arugula and prosciutto, because I was about to say, fun fact, I made up this sandwich over quarantine and it was Italian bread with prosciutto and arugula with a little of cream cheese. And I'm like, it's really good. And I'm like a chef at this point because it's like the flavors mesh so well. And then I hear that and I'm like, oh, well, someone stole my idea maybe like 2,000 years before I made it up. So I guess us Kristens just have great taste. And yeah, we could be named after the same sandwich because it would be the same name anyway. So
that's awesome. I'm so glad you're in my group again. We were in the same breakout session for previous days thing. Was that yesterday? That was yesterday, wasn't it? Or Tuesday? All my days are mixing in together because AmeriCorps week has just been crazy. But it's been great. I hope you all have been enjoying it. And Kristen, I'm expecting some good questions. You had some good things to say last time, so.
I'll try my best.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Any brave soul to go next?
I was gonna go with grilled cheese, or like cheesesteak because it's really fancy. But you mentioned the avocado toast, and that's always my go-to. So I'll just go with that. And I'm just like a little hesitant speaking out because like everyone on my screen is completely frozen. So it's kind of awkward for me. But yeah, I think I would probably go for either a Philly cheesesteak or everything bagel with avocado toast.
Awesome. And this is Luis?
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right? Okay,
Yeah, it's Louise.
awesome. Thank you.
I guess I can go. Going off the everything bagel. Well, I don't know. That's always my go-to as well. But sticking, I don't know. Someone mentioned peanut butter and jelly earlier. I really like peanut butter banana sandwiches. I don't know if anyone else likes those, but I don't know. They just pair very well, and I enjoy them any time of the day. So I would say that.
I'm enjoying the chat messages too. I think we got a good group. What's up, Max? Thanks for joining us on video. You got a sandwich?
Yeah. I guess I would just be a straight up peanut butter sandwich, no jelly, no bananas. Yeah, because that's something that you can slap together at the last minute, and I'm always on the go. So yeah.
Straight up, don't even need the jelly. Cool, I feel it. I used to have that like every day in college. Would anyone else like to share? And if you're not on video, feel free to jump on like other people have, or throw it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with, I'm cool with.
A couple of people have mentioned this already, but I would also be a grilled cheese. It's my favorite sandwich. I think it's always comforting and they just never disappoint.
All right, who was that?
Oh, sorry,
missed
this is
it.
Savannah.
Savannah. Thank you, Savannah. All right, well, if no one else wants to jump in, we can just go on and go ahead and start. The alumni nicely put their name in front, or alumni in front of their name, so you know who they are. Feel free to ask them specific questions to that specific person based on their intro. Wow, words are hard sometimes. That's okay, we'll get through. Or a question that all of them can answer. That's cool too.
I didn't come prepared with questions. I'm sorry. But what was the hardest part of transitioning from AmeriCorps Vista to your wherever you went after?
I can share. I don't, that's a really good question. So I served at the same organization that I work with now. So there wasn't really much of a transition. The position that I moved into had a lot more responsibility. So I guess, that was maybe the biggest piece of the transition, was just taking on more responsibility, and the breadth of my role was just a lot bigger than my service as an AmeriCorps member.
Were there any resources that you used? I guess, again, you stay at the same place, but any resources you used to like translate your service into like thinking about the things that your skills that you developed during your service into like very like thoughtful, transferable skills?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to need a moment just to think about that. I mean, I think one asset really was just my colleagues who were really supportive and being able to take advantage of learning more from them and even just gaining a lot from them throughout my service too. So I think to answer a part of that question, for me, I think one of the biggest resources was just my colleagues in the team that I worked with.
I can add a little bit there if you don't mind as well, since I did not stay on with AmeriCorps as in a position where I was. However, I actually did just get hired back on at the Youth Crisis Shelter, where I had my last internship. So I think that's one of the amazing things about AmeriCorps is you are able to make so many connections in the community and like this. So if you saw the alumni, most of them have stayed on with the programs, but even those of us who have left AmeriCorps and or that specific organization. So it's just a part-time job for me, but I loved it. I will say the exit interview process with AmeriCorps is pretty decent, and they do provide some guidance on how to translate your skills that you get at AmeriCorps to other positions. So I thought it was I thought that was pretty good. I mean, I worked for the federal government for 13 years, so we did annual training. So it's almost on par with that, I thought.
I also was hired by the same organization that I served with. So it wasn't a very challenging. I mean, I literally just moved myself upstairs from where I was sitting as an AmeriCorps member. And my position is still with the AmeriCorps program. So I knew some things about what my position would be, but I will say there's still a big learning curve, just learning from a different perspective about the AmeriCorps program and getting more into the administration of the program. So I still had a ton to learn, and I feel like the first year was really just all a big experiment and me learning a lot. So, but I had a lot of really supportive people at the organization because they had been hosting this AmeriCorps program for probably about 12 years before I started with them. So they kind of had it down, and that was really helpful. Yeah, and there was a lot of networking and opportunities through my AmeriCorps program as well. So I felt like I had a lot of support at our various partner organizations as well, because I knew the people already through my AmeriCorps term, and I knew a lot of new supervisors and new staff coming into those partner organizations because my fellow AmeriCorps members were also hired in various roles. So it was challenging in some ways, but mostly pretty smooth for me.
Kristen, did you go straight into being a program coordinator when you got hired at Conserving Carolina, or were you doing something else your first year after being an AmeriCorps member?
I was hired right after, so I actually finished up my AmeriCorps term on July 31st and a new job on August 1st.
For those of you who haven't continued on with the same organization or employer after your service, how have your employers now, or the ones that you've sort of interacted with, responded to your service term and your experience?
So after doing 2 years of Project Mars, when I was like a mentor, school engagement coordinator, it was right in the middle of COVID in August, July, and I was looking for a job, and someone reached out to me on LinkedIn for some other past job experiences. I actually had a part-time job during AmeriCorps too, and they really appreciated the experience I had in AmeriCorps just as much as another position, even more. I was in Leader Corps, and I shows you really know how to work well as a team, which is important in the position I'm in now. And I was just I knew that I could handle anything I had in front of me because of everything I had to do with AmeriCorps. Like it's a whole lifestyle change. So any job that's a little bit different than an AmeriCorps position isn't going to be as drastic as a whole lifestyle change you're going to get from doing AmeriCorps. So I knew I was prepared, and I made a lot of connections that people I still know and people I still talk to in AmeriCorps, even though I'm not with that same realm of work per se. But I feel like they respected me even more for being selfless and doing that volunteer service. I felt more prepared, I feel like.
Is that your Leader Corps jacket?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
I'm so excited to get one. I think about it all the time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it came late. I think it came in like September, and I was bugging Susan for it.
Susan like talks about it all the time, and she's like so excited. And she's always like, "I wish I could show you, but I can't." So it'll be a surprise, but well worth the wait.
Yeah, Susan's great, a great mentor, and she's being in Leader Corps was great. I really enjoyed that too.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
So I know some of us here are like current students, and that might like pertain, some of the stuff might pertain differently, but I was kind of wondering, like, does AmeriCorps offer resources that are student specific, or like, are there, if you were like part of AmeriCorps, or if when you were a student, like, are there any recommendations you have, or like certain things that we should look out for, etc.?
I'm not sure what program you're in. So that's one reason I did a second term with AmeriCorps, is because I was able to double that as my field internship for my first year for my master's in social work. So I was able to get a stipend while I was doing my internship. So that was a double benefit. It meant more hours, and it meant I worked longer, obviously, because than the school year. But that was definitely a benefit for me, to be able to kind of double dip there. As far as any other benefits or resources, again, just community connections. If you're doing something in a similar field to what you're getting your education in, you're already building a network that you can build off of once you graduate.
What's a skill that you got during your service year that you value the most?
I got really good at budgeting, and yeah, I feel like a lot of the time you spent with other members in your group or doing community engagement activities, you really had an opportunity to make the most of it. Or you could just go through the motions and do like your day of service, or go through this training again, or go through another thing like the regular steps of AmeriCorps. So I think something I took away from that is whenever we would get together as a group, or whenever we'd have an activity outside of our regular service, to make the most of that opportunity and really approach that with a positive like mindset, knowing that this isn't something you can do in a regular job. This is really really unique, and I would always approach that with an open mind and a great attitude. I loved being the one to get out and, you know, make it fun. So I think really helped me adjust my attitude toward those things that seem monotonous, but things like this, like I love because they're not things you can get with another regular job. So
I'm interested to hear how you guys have used your education awards. Have you done certifications or gone back to school, loans?
okay, so so my first year I used my education award to pay for a certification in something completely unrelated to anything I'd ever studied. It was an online course, and I did that during my second year. I did my online course with that education award. It was kind of like something I always had thought about, but never really had the opportunity to, but I knew that I could fit it in with AmeriCorps. And that was how I used my first education award. It was something totally different than what my program was based on, and I really enjoyed that. And the second one I paid for loans. I paid half of them off in the 2020 fiscal year, and the next week I paid the other half of my stipend. I used the other half of my stipend in the next fiscal year to kind of save myself from using those taxes all in the same year. And however you would say that, you didn't get hit with the taxes or whatever. So yeah.
I think that's just one of the awesome benefits of AmeriCorps. Obviously, student loans. I was in school. I have student loans. But just FYI, I don't remember ever catching this. It will count as income in the year that you use it. Just FYI.
That is good to know. And
I use mine for student loans and pretty much all at once because it was worth it to me. One of my loans had a pretty high interest rate. But yeah, I used it all pretty much the day I could. And I always try to remind people, use that education award because 7 years goes by really, really fast. And a lot of our alumni, I'll hear from them, you know, a week before it expires, like, oh my gosh, I haven't used this yet. And so keep it on your mind. Don't let it expire.
Yeah,
I just
also
wanted to
student
jump in.
loans, but would totally echo what Kristen said. Definitely use it. Don't lose it.
Sorry, I just wanted to share that I did put a link in the chat for the education award. I also put another link based on Kristen's earlier question of kind of what schools do for AmeriCorps members. AmeriCorps has this new partnership with schools that they're calling Schools of National Service. And so I think different schools will give you different benefits, like maybe a free application or something. Don't quote me on this, but there's a list of schools there and hopefully it'll give you more information.
Pay attention when you're looking at that list because it's not necessarily the whole school. Some of them it's like one program at that school, but not other programs. And some of them it's like a one-to-one match, and some of them it's less than that. So just look at all the details because they're pretty different.
And sorry, I didn't hear the question earlier very well about the schools, but they also have a letter on that website that you can take to a school if they don't have some sort of benefit for AmeriCorps alums, and it explains what AmeriCorps is and to kind of encourage them to do some sort of matching program or offer some kind of incentive. So even if the school you want to go to doesn't do it yet, try to convince them to do it.
I have a question about how you like negotiate a salary with either the organization if you're hired with a new job in the same organization you served with, or if you're hired in an outside organization not a part of AmeriCorps, like how do you negotiate like a salary after you've just done like a whole year with like a really low stipend? And how do you get the salary to like match what you need, I guess, living wise?
Okay, I have no experience with that, but I had some pretty great references from AmeriCorps because of the we were working so closely with so many different people who were in higher positions, like our coordinator or the principal at our school, or you could like the volunteers at a food bank or the like. It's you can come in contact with so many people that can really vouch for all you've done and go if they ask for a couple two references you can submit more references to show you how involved you were and that was probably one of my biggest assets leaving AmeriCorps was the connections I made there and that they might be able to speak on behalf of you if they're not going to take something seriously. I don't want to sound mean like about a new job, but they can really kind of back you up.
I would just add to that. I mean, personally, I've never done that. The organization that I work for, our positions that are posted are non-negotiable, the salaries that are posted with them. So if you're looking to stay in the nonprofit world, that might be something that you run across. I mean, that's not true of every agency, but some are like that. So do your research. I think looking at jobs and you know, try to figure out maybe, you know, depending on the area of work that you want to get into, you know, I would just kind of take a look at like what the average starting salaries are for positions and do some research. But to Carl's point about the references, I think just the other big piece, especially from a supervisor's role, the application process is really important. And I am kind of always shocked whenever we have positions posted at the number of applicants who don't submit cover letters. And especially, and even those who do submit cover letters maybe don't submit a cover letter that is like specific to the position. I just wouldn't take that for granted. Like if you have the opportunity to really showcase and highlight yourself, like don't let your resume do the talking. You should really write a cover letter, like tell the employer, this is what I have to offer. This is my experience. Like that's really the first glimpse that anyone is going to have of you as an applicant if you're on the job search. So I would definitely, you know, like tailor your cover letter to each position. You know, it's like share everything that you want to share in that. You know, don't copy and paste cover letters or anything like that. You know, you're selling yourself basically, and that's how you're selling yourself to get an interview and to catch someone's attention. So I think that application process and also utilizing like really great references and having people who can kind of vouch for you, like Carl said, I think is a really great suggestion too.
And I also don't have personal experience doing that, but I've known people who have negotiated salary in our field anyway. And it can be a little bit challenging just because usually the salaries are a little bit lower than you might expect. And in North North Carolina, it's the case. But I think that a lot of the time, not all of the time, but a lot of the time, there is a range that they'll state in the position description. And so you kind of know what the wiggle room is at that point, or you could ask them if there's a range. And then I've heard of people coming at it from the way of doing their research, seeing what, another comparable position would be making in the area. But also thinking about what the cost of living is in that area, and also bring that into the discussion, like, this is what I need to survive or to have the lifestyle that I would like to have. And I've also seen people in our field, they might not be able to get a higher fee, but they negotiate other things like benefits or the number of hours per week. So they might do 4 days a week instead of 5, which is worth it to, it's what your priorities are. Good to advocate for yourself and to try, to talk about that and see if they are willing to budge any way or the other. And especially women don't do that. So definitely able to do some research and try to advocate for yourself.
Kind of going off of that, how did you all prepare for your next steps after AmeriCorps?
That's a good question. I would say for me, my plan was already in place, at least currently. So I did not have to take another leap of faith after AmeriCorps. So less preparation on my part at that stage. So not necessarily something I had to do.
Yeah, I feel similarly. The stars kind of aligned for me, and I was able just to kind of seamlessly transition into a full-time position. And I know that doesn't work out for everyone. So I'm sorry that I can't offer any kind of more personal advice, but yeah, I didn't really have to kind of think about the next steps. I knew what my next move was going to be.
And working in something not related to AmeriCorps at all, or anything I went to school to do. And the people I know who got the most out of AmeriCorps knew their next step and started planning for grad school or another job position in like March or April, and they were already taking those steps and putting those in place to get somewhere. And I really didn't have a plan, and it worked out well. But the people I know who got the most out of it were really being proactive and planning before they saw what was coming next. Like a couple of friends went back to grad school or had jobs that they were working part-time while also serving with AmeriCorps still. So it's never too soon to start, laying that groundwork. But yeah, it'll work out.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, similarly to others, I didn't have to stress too much about it because I knew what my position was going to be after my AmeriCorps term ended. But before I got this position, I was, updating my resume, prepping for interview questions, I was applying to some jobs, but it was still a little bit early when I got this position. So it was still a little bit early to be applying for other jobs at that point. So I'd only applied to a few and out there. Yeah, really just like telling people what I was looking for so that I could use my network as well.
Emily just shared in the chat, the Muse is a great website for interview or career prep. Thank you, Emily. I think we're gonna get kicked out pretty soon here. Is there anything else anyone wants to share in a smaller breakout group before we jump into the big group?
I just wanted to say thank you to all the alumni and especially Megan Shepard to so kindly joining us tonight and dedicating an hour or so of their time. So really appreciate it. And it's good to hear, definitely.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back, everyone. We are gonna hang out as a big group for a little bit. Ellie, were there any questions that maybe didn't come up that we feel should be asked at this time?
Our group covered a lot of things. The last thing we were talking about was how to kind of stretch your AmeriCorps budget and tips for doing that. And so we had a lot of really great things from volunteering to see if you can get into some places for free, and looking into organizations that might support AmeriCorps members like the Y. And so if anybody else has any other tips that they want to share with the main group, so both of our groups get that. I know it's really important to a lot of us.
Yeah, would anyone like to share some tips?
I personally did a lot of thrift store shopping, just a ton of thrift store shopping, and it saves so much money. And in Western North Carolina, I feel like we have really great thrift stores. So I don't know about the rest of the state, but I never felt like I was missing anything.
If you live in Asheville and you buy a Go Local card, you can get a discount at like most of the local businesses here, which I use like all the time. It's really nice.
Starting AmeriCorps was my first time I actually kept a budget going. And so looking at that and keeping track of all of my expenses really helps make sure that I don't go overboard on Trader Joe's every month. So Google spreadsheet, use that to your advantage.
Our AmeriCorps program helped set us up with food stamps. So if you are an AmeriCorps and you need help paying for those Trader Joe grocery runs, that has been a huge help for me. And thank you, alumni, for throwing your emails in the chat. I hope you all feel comfortable emailing them if you have any other questions that you might want to ask on an individual basis based on their introduction, or if they weren't in your breakout room. One thing that I would like to ask, it is almost 7:30, so if you have to jump off, that's totally fine. We want to respect your time. But if you want to stay on, we'll stay on for 5 or 10 more minutes. But I would like to ask, we talked about, we mentioned connections, but we didn't really say, how did we make those connections? How did we expand our network during our AmeriCorps term? Can any alumni speak on that?
I can share a little bit. I don't think I probably have the best examples, but I actually think that around the time or right after finishing up my service, I created a LinkedIn, and I don't really use any social media, but I do have a LinkedIn, and that helped me at least to stay connected to other members in my cohort, because not all of them stayed within the agencies they were serving. So that was something that I'm glad that I did. And I would say just in general, I mean, taking advantage of like kind of any opportunity to like join meetings or trainings throughout my service was really helpful, and just kind of keeping my mind open and taking advantage of anything that came my way.
I'm not an alum, but I do have something that my supervisor, who is an alum, told me to do, and it's really helped me kind of keep track of the things that I've done. And so not necessarily expanding your network, but just kind of making sure that you know all the things that you've accomplished during the year. She had me create a spreadsheet and kind of organize all the things that I've done, all the trainings that I've been to, based on my goals. And that's really helped me visualize how far I've come. And I'm notorious for forgetting all the things that I do. And so keeping track of that has really been helpful. And I think when, creating resumes and going into interviews and doing things in the future, I'll be able to go back to that and know exactly when I did something and exactly, how that helped me during my service. So I highly recommend that.
Something I did that I like doing was creating a little footer for my email, because I noticed people who were important always had like a footer, like signature for their email. So I created, it was just a picture of me with my AmeriCorps title and a picture of me in my year, and makes you look like you know what you're doing, and it boosts, like, I don't know, it made me feel important and makes it look official, and it's free. You can just create that for your signature for your AmeriCorps email. And yeah, just don't add too many like titles to it. Just keep it brief. That's good.
One thing that our AmeriCorps program did and still does is we have members do host site visits, which is where they go and they visit other members at different host sites, different partner sites, and get to like see what they're doing or help them out for the day. And that, we had to do them, but a lot of us ended up doing more than just the couple we were supposed to do. And it was a really great opportunity to like get to know others on the team better, even people who maybe we don't socialize with as much on a regular basis because of geography or whatever reason. And also to get to know another organization. And I really got a lot out of that and got to know some people who I didn't think I would really interact with much over the year. And then we also just like, I know it's hard this year because everybody's doing all this virtual stuff, but we would do a lot of in-person like trainings and events, and after almost every single one of those, we'd all go out and do something for an hour or longer just to hang out and get to know each other. And that was really worthwhile. I really didn't say no to any social event. And that was hard for me because I my partner was also in the AmeriCorps program. So it would have been easy for us just to go off and do our own thing, but we tried to stay engaged and hang out with the group. And now we have some, I think, lifelong friends from that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more difficult now with COVID. Is there anything we want to add with the kind of restrictions that COVID creates and how we can still create those relationships?
I will add, so I think it takes a little bit more effort but literally, even if it's just a chat for a few minutes, those like one-on-one times are really important. And that's how you build those relationships. And it does take a little more effort and it might be a little awkward, but I think everybody should try to do that. And even when, even in non-COVID times, when we're doing normal things, it's still important to keep reaching out to people in your network who you might not see on a regular basis to keep those, to maintain those relationships. So I think it's good practice as well.
I'll add a couple of things to everything everyone has said. I'll just say, so my 2 terms, my first term, I came in later in the year, so I wasn't required to do all the activities and meetings, etc. Completely different experience the second year when I was required and able to do all those things. So it is really, really beneficial to engage in those things like other people have said. It really makes a difference in forming that sense of community. But also, if you have any desire to work with that organization, where that's your host site, or to continue on in that community, be proactive in establishing yourself in your role. Think of long-term game. Build community connections outside of that. Somebody mentioned meetings and things like that. I've done as many opportunities as I had to engage with other community organizations so that I could be seen, I could see them, start building face and communication, so that I know a lot. I was able to touch a lot of community resources in my time. So depends on what your goals are, but I think those could be helpful. And speaking of chat, I was going to say they didn't have to in AmeriCorps, but setting up some kind of group chat or some kind of communication where people can talk and share resources. We do that in our social work department. Super helpful.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording if you all want to stay on, but thank you so much for joining us.